Good evening, and welcome to WANA Live, the reading series of the Writers Association of Northern Appalachia. I'm your host, Damian Dressel. This is your other host. And welcome to WANA Live, the reading series. Well, that was your other host, Christina Fasonic. How's life in Wheeling tonight, Christina? Well, it's really great, Damian.
Sorry about that. I'm trying to do too many things at one time and not doing any of them well. So tonight we have an amazing guest on, and let me tell you a little bit about him. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Yeah, I'm the one who wasn't ready tonight. Pardon me, everybody. So tonight, Richard Hague will be reading for us. He is a Northern Appalachian from Steubenville, Ohio, which is very near Wheeling, and a longtime resident of Cincinnati. His writing has appeared in Poetry, Smartish Pace, Pine Mountain Sand and Gravel, Asheville Poetry Review, Appalachian Journal, Appalachian Heritage, Birmingham Poetry Review, Northern Appalachian Review, Nowhere Magazine, Hiram Poetry Review, Nimrod, Mid-American Review, Creative Nonfiction, Ohio Magazine, and many other journals and anthologies. He is author or editor of 20 volumes, including Riparian, Poetry, Short Prose, and Photographs Inspired by the Ohio River with Sherry Cook Stanforth, and the essay collection Earnest Occupations, Teaching, Writing, Gardening, and Other Local Work. And that is just a brief bit of Richard Hague's bio. So let's bring him on so he can talk to us and read from his work.
You know what, Christina? I think you should have read a list of magazines that Dick has not had work in.
Yeah, maybe so.
Yeah, I've been around a long time, so it just happens over the years. I'm going to read a poem here that's of contemporary significance. A few weeks ago, when Ukraine was invaded, Madeleine Albright was quoted in an article. She had been the first Secretary of State to meet with Vladimir Putin, and she said she had noted at the time that he was, quote, small and pale, and, quote, so cold as to be almost reptilian. I don't like to dehumanize people, but when a poet is presented with that sort of opportunity for metaphor, I think he just jumps on it. So here's the poem.
We're going
to off and let you go.
Oh, okay. Vlad. Another lizard claims its home inside a human. As if hunting flies, it stretches its reasons for war like a throat hungry. It does not deliberate. It only eats. The hands of old people, the eyes of yellow cats, the vertebrae of burnt houses. It remembers back through explosions to its ancestors before the asteroid. It believes its survival is entitled, not a splinter of luck. It raises on its back like Dimetrodon the sails it will make its navies of, the fans with which it will whisk away ashes, deep ashes of its guilt. It shows its salmon tongue. It basks in a counterfeit sun to power its invention of history, and insists the story is a plant it planted. This second poem has an epigraph from James Wright, who wrote of my hometown, the river passing my hometown of Steubenville. He called it the dark, jubilating Isaiah of mill and smoke marrow. The title of this is What I Had Instead of Stories. The ones I tell and have told for years, I made up. In a place whose history is that history will be lost, there were no stories. Noisy town, railroads, steel mills, cacophonies and cinders. Old men and women hardly had voices. The hills no longer spoke tongues. I couldn't hear myself breathe. And so any love I might have learned, any grief I might have had to swallow, any hope I might have had to dream up, Throw it out and turn away, boy, turn away. And why wouldn't I? The air so bad it was famous. Safer to suck in and hold what I had to tell for later, when I could hide in my future and testify on paper, out of sight, out of their sight and hearing. I never wanted to say bad about my town, except when I did. Even then, no regrets. Everything, even the bad I knew, would go up in smoke. This final poem is from my friend Dick Westheimer, who gave me a copy of Wisława Szymborska's book of poems called Here. So this is called Return. He gave me a book of poems called Here. On its cover, the author, smiling, eyes closed, holds a cigarette in hand, coffee cup before her, books all behind her, a radiation of contentment. The book cost, my friend, not her, just short of $15. To tell what it cost her is not possible, save to speculate about which poems took most life. All poems take and give life. It is what they breathe into and out of us. In this book, every poem a lifetime. I thought all afternoon, what equal could I give my gardener friend? 10 dozen cow plop pots, 1 heritage raspberry bush, a trowel, I could have it engraved by a jeweler. But then I thought of some of the lost words we'd spoken of, acorn, fern, willow, dandelion. For his garden of the lost then, willow slips to start, maiden's hair spores, gray blonde seed heads like Einstein's mop puffed over a flat of good black dirt. And if I had the power of the woman on the cover, her Orphic years, her capacious survival, I would conjure a yard full of his grandchildren to see and say them all. Thanks.
Well, thank you, Richard. That was wonderful work.
Thank you.
Yeah, I really, although I don't know, I feel like that first poem, I feel like he's given reptiles a bad name.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
And somehow virulently anti-Putin. No, I think it's important to address topical issues of the day with language, and kind of
Yeah.
speak back to some of what's going on. I loved your second poem. This question of no history and who gets to talk and whose story stays in memory. I was reading today the autobiography and a biography of Mother Jones, and the person who wrote the biography is a professor at Purdue, and he says, it's very. He wrote this in '95, I believe. And he said it's hard to understand right now, but this is one of the most famous people of the early part of the 20th century.
Yes.
And like how to. How is history made as like this sort of reified, I guess, might be another way to do it. But I love what you're doing there. I got to admit, except when I did. That's lovely.
Yeah. Thanks. Yes. Yeah.
Well,
It's been between Steubenville and myself since I left Steubenville to go to college has been it's been a complicated relationship that has never ended.
No, I know exactly. I was writing this short story. It's called Home Brew, and it's been in a few things, but anthologies and whatnot. But I was writing. It's about this miner who suffers from bipolar disorder. He quits the mine, and he's going to go make a fortune home brewing beer. And it was just kind of, I was looking at it through this rose-colored glasses. And I had my little cousin in the car. She's like 15, and I was trying to drive her someplace, and she's like, "I hate it here. I freaking hate it." And I'm like, that's what's missing in this piece is that kind of, you have to blend that love with the hate.
Yeah.
The kind of desperate need to reach escape velocity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think it's hard though, because when it's like West Virginia, in general, when the rest of the country is so down on a place, it's hard not to say, stop kicking me, and support a place, right? So you're always in that tenuous bind between, I hate it here, and hey, leave this place alone. It's not our fault that we're in a situation. And I was thinking about your second poem a lot too, that it's not the air that's in jeopardy here now. It's the water, because they're getting ready to put in a cracker plant.
Oh, yeah.
And it's not air pollution that's going to do us this time. It's the water. And I feel like, just as we pull ourselves out, we get exploited again for our land, for our water, for our resources, the people, because, whenever they put in a big industrial plant like that, there's going to be illness, the workers, the people who live downriver. So yeah, there's always a time, I think, for environmental activism and poetry and prose and everything. We need to do whatever we can.
Yeah. And there's 981 miles downriver from that plant that's going in. That's a pretty big piece of the country. And, just about everybody's going to be downriver from it. Just keep that in mind, folks.
Oh, yes. I was part of the Water Warriors group when we were trying to fight it. And, like in most cases, we lost.
Yeah.
So.
I heard you won.
No. Anyways, go ahead.
No.
Did you have anything else to add?
Well, I think we should let one of our
our
viewers.
We have a comment here from Rusty Barnes, who says, "Great stuff. Glad to hear Richard read after reading him on the page for years."
Oh, well, thank you, Rusty. Good to see you.
Yeah, he's a regular watcher of the show, and we're always glad for his comments about our work. Joseph Bethante, we've been talking to him a lot. He's been on the show, and he's doing he has a new book of environmental poetry out, where he's talking about mountaintop removal. And we were talking the other day about how, for Northern Appalachia, where we are, it's now, fracking and the oil industry that's blowing the top off of our hills here. We don't really have mountains, but we certainly have hills that are being dug out forever, and fracking plants are being put in, and compressor stations, and it's like there's no escape, right?
Yeah, the drilling pads just flatten out whatever might be the hill, and there you go.
Yeah.
I'm old enough to have witnessed by my own eyes the gem of Egypt eating up eastern Ohio. And it was almost like a tourist attraction. Anything big, the gem of Egypt, the largest coal shovel, the Hannibal locks and dams when they were installed, they were like places that we went as tourists, and so there was this gigantism of industry and culture that. I think I've never been able to walk away from it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can understand that. I've seen lots of pictures of that big piece of machinery, and people would stand in it and they would look like this tall in this giant shovel. It was really amazing. And so on the one hand, you're inspired by this technology, these feats of mankind, but also appalled by what the consequences are.
Yes, because then we realize that sometimes we're E.E. Cummings' man unkind.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yes.
Well, I'd rather end on a happy note, and we will. We're so very glad that you came on and you joined us this evening, Dick. It was really nice to talk with you.
It's always great to talk with you guys too. It's wonderful, and I wish you all the best. And your time in London, it's going to be one marvel after another. Enjoy it.
We're looking forward to it.
Great. Yes. All right.
Well, thanks again,
Yes.
Dick, for coming on, and thank you everybody for watching.
Yes, and next week, although we'll be in England, we will have our episode of WANA Live anyway. Michael Sims will be on the program, and it's a little bit of pre-recorded business, but it'll be out there for everybody to see next Thursday night. So thanks, everybody, for joining us. Stay healthy out there, and thank you again, Dick, for being on the show.
Have a good
Thanks
night.
very much. Thanks, Christina. Thanks, Damien. Great.